Salutations, this is Crazed Kitsune, aka Khuma'zi Tayuun, and welcome to Summoner for Dummies level 50. In this video, I will be covering the basics of how to play the Summoner job. Hopefully, I will be able to explain it in such a way that you will not be horrible. But who knows? With the intro over with, how do you become a Summoner? Well, to become a Summoner, you must first be an Arcanist. Those of you who've watched my Scholar videos will recognize the name Arcanist. Yep, this base class has two jobs it can switch to. Upon reaching level 30 as an Arcanist, and completing the final class quest for Arcanist, and having completed the main scenario quest Self-Management, you can undergo the job quest to become Summoner, which will allow you to become a more powerful damage dealer. As a caster DPS, Summoner's primary stat is Intelligence, which will directly affect how much damage their spells do. So you're going to want lots and lots of Intelligence. After all, you're not a very good mage if you're dumb as a stump. With that bad joke out of the way, let's go look at actions and traits. Since they have a base class, they have class actions. But we're starting in traits. At level 6, you acquire the trait Ether Dam, which allows you to stack 1 Ether Flow. At level 20, you gain Enhanced Intelligence, which gives you 8 Intelligence, making you deal more damage. And you also get Maim and Mend, which increases the base damage and HP restoration done by you and your pet by 10%. Spoilers, Summoner's pets can't heal. You also gain Ether Dam 2 at level 20, allowing you to stack 2 Ether Flow. At level 26, you get Corruption Mastery, which will upgrade Bio to Bio 2, since Bio 2 is just a better Bio. At level 40, you get Enhanced Intelligence 2, which will give you 16 Intelligence, making you deal more damage. You also gain Maim and Mend 2, which increases the damage and healing done by you and your pet by 30%. Your pets still can't heal. And the last thing you get up to level 50 is another level 40 trait, Ether Dam 3, which allows you to stack up to 3 Ether Flow, which is the maximum you can have. With that all covered, let's get into Arcanist's actions. At level 1, you have Ruin. This is a global cooldown spell with a 2.5 second cast time. At level 60, it costs 176 MP, and it is a potency 100 attack. So it's not the most impressive thing in the world, but that's because the bulk of your damage doesn't come from casting Ruin. At level 2, you obtain Bio. This is a global cooldown instant cast spell. At level 60, it costs 353 MP. It deals no damage on impact, but will apply a potency 40 damage over time that lasts for 18 seconds. I apologize for the clicking. That's just me muting my mic so I can spit up some phlegm because my throat hates me. Or possibly blow my nose because that also hates me. At level 4, you acquire Summon. This is a global cooldown spell with a 6-second cast time. At level 60, it costs 1,768 MP, and it will summon a caster-type pet to fight at your side. Yeah, you get to summon an adorable little magey thing. When I demonstrate the spells, you're going to be seeing what an Arcanist will summon, rather than what a Summoner will summon, because I have Eggy Glamours on, because I think they're just much cuter. Don't worry, you'll get to see what the Eggies look like if you're leveling Summoner, because you can't get Eggy Glamour until level 50. At level 4, you also acquire Physic. This is a global cooldown 2-second cast time spell with a cost of 442 at level 60. It is a potency 400 heal. The reason Arcanist learns this is because they later advance into being Scholar, so they get a few healery type abilities. At level 6, you acquire Ether Flow. This is a 60-second cooldown which will instantly restore 10% of your maximum MP and give you as many stacks of Ether Flow as you can hold at your current level. So if you're level 40 and above, it gives you 3. These stacks have an infinite duration. They will remain until you use them on an Ether Flow skill. And the rest of that will be covered in the level 60 video, because that's for post 50 content. So for now, just ignore the rest of the Etherflow tooltip. At level 6, you also gain Energy Drain, a 3-second cooldown off global attack. It is a potency 150 and will absorb some of the damage it does as healing for you and will restore your MP. It consumes 1 Etherflow, and the Ethereal Attunement is for post 50. At level 10, you acquire Miasma. This is a global cooldown spell with a 2.5 second cast time, and at level 60 it costs 442 MP. It has an impact potency of 20 and applies a potency 35 damage over time, which will last for 24 seconds. As you may have noticed, you have a pet and you have 2 different damage over time effects. A very large amount of Summoner's damage is passively applied to the enemy through their damage over time effects and their pet. Summoners just kind of help out a little and have other things they bring to the table. At level 15, there is a class quest which will reward you with Summon 2. This global cooldown spell has a 6-second cast time, and at level 60 it costs 1,768 MP. This will summon a tank-type pet to fight at your side. Do not use this when you are in a party. Summoning a tank-type pet is going to interfere with your tank. This is used when you are out doing solo stuff. Your tank pet exists to keep things from turning around and ripping off your squishy mage face. At level 18, you acquire Resurrection. This global cooldown spell has an 8-second cast time. At level 60, it costs 2,652 MP, which is a very big chunk of MP. And what this does is it will resurrect a fallen player. Party member, random stranger, doesn't matter. But they will be in a weakened state. Because it has such a long cast time, it can't be easily used in combat on its own. But we have a solution to that problem, which we will get to later. Oh, I forgot to actually put my roll actions on my bars, so you'll get to see me do that in the video. Professionalism! Anyway, at level 26, you acquire Bio 2, a global cooldown instant cast spell that costs 530 MP at level 60. It, like Bio, does not have an impact potency. It instead applies a damage over time effect. Its potency is 35, which is 5 less than Bio, but it lasts for 12 more seconds, giving it more total potency. At level 30, your final class quest as Arcanist will reward you with Bane. This is a 10-second cooldown ability. What it does is it will spread your Bio and Miasma effects to all enemies within 8 yalms of the target you use this on, as long as they have Bio and or Miasma on them. There's no point in using Bane on an enemy that doesn't have these effects. The spread damage over time effects will be weaker than the source. The second enemy to be afflicted will be receiving a 20% lower... the damage over time will be 20% weaker. The third enemy will have 40% weaker damage. The fourth will have 60% less, and the fifth and beyond will be taking 80% less damage. The duration of the spread damage effects will be the same as the duration of the original when you used Bane. there is a 15% chance that if their duration is shorter than their original effect duration, it will be reset. Bane consumes 1 ether flow. Ignore the ethereal attunement until my next video on Summoner. At level 38, you get Ruin 2. This is a global cooldown instant cast spell that at level 60 costs 353 MP, and it is potency 100. It is an instant cast ruin that costs a lot more. It is used mostly when you can't stand still long enough to cast a spell, or when you're trying to weave some extra cooldowns into your rotation. At level 42, you get Rouse. This 60-second cooldown will increase the damage and healing of your pet by 40%, while also making them immune to stun, sleep, bind, and heavy for 20 seconds. This is used for getting a little burst out. And finally, at level 50, Arcanist learns Shadow Flare, a 60-second cooldown that will allow you to place a damage over time zone. It has a 5 yalm radius and will last for 15 seconds. While it is sitting on the ground, any enemies inside of it will be suffering a potency 50 damage over time and a 5% slow. And it says it cannot be used with any other area creating actions, but at the moment I don't think Summoner has any others. This does not mean that you cannot have a bunch of summoners place Shadow Flare in the same spot. They can. They just can't have more than one of their own area creating skills out. And with the class actions covered, let's move on to Job. Upon becoming Summoner at level 30, you unlock Summon 3. You will have later job quests which will upgrade Summon 1 and 2 to give you the Summoner pets for those. But at level 30, you get the new Summon Pet. This global cooldown spell has a 6-second cast time and at level 60 costs 1,768 MP, and will summon an attacker type pet, a melee pet. It will run up and spank the enemy for you. At level 35, you acquire Fester. This 5-second cooldown will deal damage to any victims who are suffering from bio or miasma. If they have one, it is a potency 150 attack. If they have both, it is potency 300, and you can only use it if the bio and miasma are yours. So if you didn't cast bio and miasma on the target, but another summoner or a scholar did, you can't use Fester. It consumes 1 ether flow, and ethereal attunement is for the post 50 content. At level 40, you acquire Tribind. This is a global cooldown spell with a 3-second cast time. At level 60, it costs 884 MP. It has a 5 yalm radius and a potency of 30. Doesn't sound very impressive. It's because it's not. It's an area bind. It applies a 20-second bind effect to all enemies caught inside of it. There are uses for this, but it is situational. And lastly, we have Enkindle. This is a 3-minute cooldown which will command your pet to use its signature attack, its ultimate move. Each of your 3 pets has their own. And now, let's go look at role actions. First up, we have first, upon unlocking a role action slot, it appears to remain permanently available to you even when level synced to below the level you unlock it. And once you have learned a role action, you can stick it in one of your role action slots and have access to it whenever you want. And now, let's begin with the role actions themselves. At level 8, we have Addle. This is a 2-minute cooldown which will reduce the intelligence and mind of your target by 10% for the next 10 seconds. You use this to help mitigate magic tank busters. At level 12, you get Break, a global cooldown spell with a 2.5-second cast time and 0 cost. Its potency is 50 and it applies a 20% heavy for 20 seconds. I imagine there are situations where you would need this heavy. At level 16, you get Drain, a global cooldown spell with a 2.5 second cast time, and at level 60 it costs 442 MP. It is a potency 80 attack that will absorb some of the damage it deals as healing. At level 20, we have Diversion. This is a 2-minute cooldown that will severely reduce the amount of hate you make with your skills for the next 15 seconds. This will be useful if you are having trouble keeping your aggro below the tanks, or you're intending to do a very heavy burst, because Summoner will get some pretty powerful burst later. At level 24, you have Lucid Dreaming, a 2-minute cooldown that will cut your current enmity in half, and also applies a potency 80 refresh for 21 seconds. Refresh being an MP regeneration. A summoner should not need Lucid Dreaming because they have Ether Flow and Energy Drain. They have means of maintaining their MP on their own. But if you are struggling to keep your MP up during fights, you could always get Lucid Dreaming on, I guess. At level 32, we have Swift Cast. This is a 60-second cooldown that will make the next spell you cast instant. You use this so you can cast Resurrection in the middle of a fight in order to save your healer some MP, or because your healer just died. Either way, it's much better than hard casting an 8-second spell. At level 36, you have Mana Shift, a 2.5-minute cooldown which will transfer up to 20% of your maximum MP to the target party member. I'm not sure if this is useful on a summoner or not, because I don't know how well they can cope with giving up that much MP. I know a black mage doesn't have to care. At level 40, we have Pocket Stasis, a 2.5-minute cooldown which can only be used on party members. You can't use it on yourself. It will reduce their magic vulnerability by 20% for 10 seconds. This is another way to help mitigate magic tank busters. At level 44, you acquire Surecast. This 30-second cooldown will make your next spell cast without interruption, as long as you don't move, get stunned, silenced, or put to sleep. It does nullify knockback and draw-in effects, so the enemy can't forcibly move you. And finally, at level 48, we have Erase. This 90-second cooldown will remove a single damage over time effect from target party member other than you, and also apply a potency 200 heal. I'm sure there are uses for this. I just haven't put it on. I have only 4 roll actions because these are the only ones that I know for sure would be useful and or helpful to me. I think. I could be horribly, 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 horribly wrong. But let's go get some roll actions put on. I'm just putting them in places that make sense to me at the moment. And that'll do for now. Your bars, the arrangement of your bars will change as you gain new skills, because some skills flow better in some ways, and how you set them up does not have to match mine. This is just what makes sense to me. It might make no sense to you. But with that out of the way, let's get to the demonstrations. First off, let's show off Summon 3. Now, as you saw, I summoned a Ruby Carbuncle. This is actually Ifrit Eggy. Now, Ifrit Eggy, go on obey. Oh, right, I should cover your pet's abilities. I'm stupid. Well, first off, there are the commands you can give your pets. Away just desummons your pet. I'm sure there are times when this is useful. Heal will order them to follow you around. Place will order them to go stand where you selected. Stay orders them to just sit where they currently are. Guard will have them, on guard. If you attack or are attacked, then they will join the fray. Steady will have them do nothing unless ordered to do so. Sick has them do whatever they like. Well, when they are fighting, they will use their abilities as they please. Obey will have them only use their most basic ability on their own. Everything else, you have to order them to use it. With that covered, let's talk about the abilities of your pets. First, the pet that is summoned with Summon 1. Garuda Eggy, or as I have it glamoured, Emerald Carbuncle, because Emmy is much cuter. If a skill is marked as level 1, well, you can't use Summon at level 1. This is just to say that the pet will always have this ability. The first one for Garuda Eggy is Windblade, a 3-second recast, 1-second cast, potency 100 attack. This is what she's going to be using pretty much all the time. Shockwave is a 90-second cooldown with a 5 Yalm range, meaning she's going to have to go run up and punch something with it. It is a potency 90 attack with a 15 Yalm knockback. You're not going to be using this too terribly often in parties because knockbacks tend to just screw everyone up. At level 20, Garuda Eggy will have access to Aerial Slash. This is a 5 Yalm radius, 30-second cooldown attack with potency 90 to the targeted enemy and all enemies around it within 15 Yalms. And at level 40, they will have access to the skill Contagion, a 60-second cooldown that increases the target's magic damage taken by 10% for 15 seconds. And once you have Enkindle, you will be able to order Garuda Eggy to use Aerial Blast. This 5 Yalm radius attack has a potency of 250 on the target and everything around it, but can only be used with Enkindle. Which means you can only use it once every 3 minutes, tops. Next up is Summon 2, your tank pet, Titan Eggy, though I have it glamoured as Topaz Carbuncle. Sorry about that. Massive action. Yay. Anyway, the first ability is Rock Breaker, a 3-second cooldown, instant cast. Well, it's called a spell. It's effectively a weapon skill. It is potency 85 and it has increased enmity, because Titan is a tank. It will also have access to Mountain Buster at any level. This 15-second cooldown will deal a potency 70 attack to all enemies within a 5 Yalm radius of Titan Eggy, and this has increased enmity as well. At level 20, Titan Eggy will have access to Earthen Ward, a 2-minute cooldown that will reduce the damage Titan takes by 20% for 20 seconds. At level 40, they will have access to Landslide. This is a 40-second cooldown, potency 70 attack with a 2-second stun. And if you use Enkindle, they will unleash Earthen Fury, a 5 Yalm radius attack around them, potency 200, that will also create a damage over time area with a potency of 20 that lasts for 15 seconds, called Raised Earth. And now for the Summon 3 pet, Ifrit Eggy, or as I have it glamoured, Ruby Carbuncle. They will always have access to Crimson Cyclone and Burning Strike. Crimson Cyclone is a 40-second cooldown, potency 110, stun for 2 seconds. And Burning Strike is their basic, constantly using it on their own attack. 3-second cooldown, a 3-second recast, instant cast. It is a potency 135. Ifrit Eggy technically does more damage, but Garuda Eggy is often more supportive of your overall damage, and is easier to keep alive because she's not hugging the enemy during AoEs. At level 20, you have Radiant... Ifrit Eggy can use Radiant Shield, a 60-second cooldown with a 15 Yalm radius around Ifrit Eggy. What this does is, I believe, it applies the buff Radiant Shield to all party members within range. If they... And then whenever you suffer damage, a potency 50 attack will be delivered against the enemy. This buff lasts for 20 seconds. It has an additional effect of increasing the target's physical damage taken by 2% for 4 seconds. So Ifrit Eggy can support melee DPS and ranged physical. At level 40, Ifrit Eggy can use Flaming Crush, a 30-second cooldown, 5 Yalm AoE around himself, which is a potency of 110. And then if you use Enkindle, he will unleash Inferno, a 5 Yalm cone in front of him that deals a 200 potency attack and applies a potency 20 damage over time that lasts for 15 seconds. So, with that out of the way, let's see. Ruby, stay. Ruby, come. Ruby, go over there. Ruby, come. Ruby, be steady. Be on guard. Sick. Obey. Alright. Now then. Go deliver your Crimson Cyclone. Use Radiant Shield. Yep, it buffs everyone. Flaming Crush! Alright, and now, Enkindle! Okay, that's enough from you. Now, let's summon the tanky pet. Okay, now, you use, well, go to town on this guy. Rockbreaker. Mountain Buster. Landslide. Okay, now while he's going at that, let's make this thing stupid. Let's see. Can I put this on you? Nope, has to be a player. I need things to hate me less. Okay. Earthen Ward. Alright, so that's all of his stuff demonstrated. So, away with you. Alright. Now then, this is what Ruin looks like. This is Ruin 2. Yeah. Here's physics. It's probably not going to be very impressive. Yeah. It literally healed me for its MP cost. That was pathetic. but I'm not a healer. I just have it on my crossbar because it sort of amuses me. Unleash the Tribind! They can't move. Shadow Flare! Let's see. Bio 2. And Miasma! Yeah, if you cast them in that order, their durations will be as close to each other as you can get them. Let's see here. Well, it's getting about time that I can use Enkindle again, so let's resummon Titan Eggy. Alright. And now I'm going to demonstrate Ether Flow, and then the Ether Flow abilities. So, Miasma, or Bio 2, Miasma, Bane, Fester, and yeah. So, those are your Ether Flow skills. And yes, as you can see, my Ether Gauge is doing something very impressive. I am hoping that eventually goes away. Anyway, unleash your Earthen Fury! Okay, and now I'm just going to replace you with Garuda Eggy. Or rather, Emerald Carbuncle. I love how that samurai is hanging up behind that guy. What is his level? He's level 50. He doesn't have positionals. Why is he hanging up behind it? Does he just like stabbing things in the back? Like a jerk? Anyway. Emmy, get to work, please. Use Shockwave. Use Aerial Slash. Use Contagion. Okay, it looks like I'm not going to be able to get my Ether Flow reactivated. Yeah, I can use my Ether Flow skill, but I can't get any more Ether Flow right now because I'm kind of stuck in a state that only applies to post 50. Oops. Oh well. Hey, Emmy, be more powerful. But I suppose now's a good time to demonstrate your basic rotation, if you can call it that. So, Bio 2, Miasma, and I'm going to throw out a Ruin 2, throw down a Shadow Flare, and yeah, your basic rotation is to have your damage over time effects up at all times, and just spam Ruin. When your damage over time effects are starting to run low, you would refresh them. And then just continue spamming Ruin. You only need to refresh your damage over time effects if they are running low. At around 5 seconds or less, that's when you replace it. I'm really just killing time until I can use Enkindle on Garuda, or on my Emerald Carbuncle here, in order to demonstrate Aerial Blast. Okay, I can use Enkindle. Unleash your wrath! And with that, I have shown every skill currently available. Go on to steady so you'll stop attacking, please. Thank you. But yeah, Emerald Carbuncle is adorable and fluffy, and honestly, he looks more blue than green to me, but I do have a little bit of color blindness apparently anyway. But yeah, your basic rotation is just maintaining your damage over time effects, weaving in various cooldowns along the way. And for optimum, you're going to want to have your pet on obey and micromanaging its abilities as well. To that end, you may want to put its abilities on your bars, because that is a thing that you can do. See? Sorry about that. But, yeah, you would be using your Enkindle whenever you can for a big chunk of damage, using your pet's abilities to deal extra damage in whatever ways you can, maintaining your damage over time effects, using Ruin, using Ether Flow to both maintain your MP and get your stacks so you can unleash your various Ether Flow consuming skills. But with that, I believe I've covered everything that's needed in order to understand how to play Summoner. Even if I didn't do the best job of showing it off, I demonstrated the skills. You know what they do, so you should be able to figure out how to use them. If it is a skill that's not going to interfere with anyone, feel free to just weave it in for more damage. Like using the aerial blade and shockwave attacks on targets that can't be knocked back. It's all a matter of finding where you can weave in your pet's abilities to increase their damage output, and weave in your cooldowns to increase your own. With that, I hope this video has been informative and helpful. If it hasn't, well, I'll have to summon an Eldritch Abomination to destroy you. Until my next video, goodbye.